Hello.
Hi.
Ah,
There we are. Okay.
huh?
Very good.
Good evening.
Good evening, everybody.
81, George.
Good evening. So Daf this week, 7 o'clock, because tomorrow, Tuesday anyways, because of Tzorba, and at Wednesday also, there's a shiur at Walter Feinblum's house on Purim, 8 o'clock. So 7 o'clock will be Daf Yomi. On Thursday, we'll try to do it earlier, like at 5 or 5:30. We'll decide, because Thursday night is Megillah laning. And then Friday, we'll also do it, like we always do, maybe 4:30, 5 o'clock. Remember the clock has moved, so we could probably do it maybe at 5 p.m. because people have the Suda at 1 o'clock. I think by 5 p.m. it should be fine. That's just a little bit of a heads up for this week. Okay, we're on Pei Aleph 81. Lo tema lo lavicha hachi. You shouldn't, if your father made a mistake, you should say it in a certain way. If a person sees his father violating a certain Torah law, lo yomer lo abba varta divrei Torah, he shouldn't say, Father, you violated a dvar Torah. Elo omer lo abba kach ksiv b'Torah. Is it written like that in the Torah? Now, the Gemara says, well, sof hainu ach. Well, that seems to be the same lack of kavod. Elo omer lo abba mikra kosev b'Torah kachu. You just tell him, this is the pasuk that's written in the Torah. That's the way I read it. And he'll understand, why you're reading it to him this way. And he'll understand that maybe I didn't learn it properly. Okay, Mishnah. Mishnah is chai b'shtei misos based in. A person was over two different averos that give you the death penalty. Nidon b'chamura. Which death penalty do you give him? You give him the worst one. We've known, like skila, streifa, skila is worse. Hereg and chenek, hereg is worse. Okay. Over aver shenischayv shtei misos.
It's like a repetition of the first sentence.
Well, no. The Reisha were two different averos. Here you committed one avera.
Oh, one of it, yeah.
Here you committed one avera where there are two different misos. The example will be, you live with your mother-in-law who is an Eishes Ish. So you did one avera, but there's two misos besdin that you could be killed for. One for Eishes Ish, which is chenek. One is chamosa, which is sreifa. That's opposed to doing, like, I'm a murderer and I committed adultery. Those are two different averas, both of which give you the death penalty. Those involve two different actions. That's what the Reisha was. The second part is with one avera, you get two different death penalties. Again, nidon b'chamura. But Rabbi Yosi Oimer, Rabbi Yosi Oimer, not that you get the chamura, you get which prohibition occurred first. For example, was this, you might have married a woman whose mother was not married. So that woman is your mother-in-law. So the first prohibition that you ever knew her with was the prohibition was mother-in-law. She was not an Eishes Ish. On the other hand, this may have been a woman, let's say, she was a married woman, so the prohibition would be Eishes Ish before she became your mother-in-law. She was a married woman before you married her mother. So Rabbi Yossi says it's based on what is the first avera that would be violated. We pass like the Chachamim that it says you get the most chamura. Now, the Gemara sees the first statement by which you committed two different averos, you have two different punishments, and you get treated with the worst as a pshita. I mean, we understand that. Ella Isgairu, what do you mean? Is he benefiting by now committing a second capital crime? I mean, why would we make it easier for him? He's already going to get, he has a certain death penalty. Now he's going to do another one. You're going to say, oh, let's treat him more leniently? That's why the Gemara sees it as a pshita that the Mishnah L'chura didn't have to say it. Amar Rava, Chochma Eskinon, Kigon Sha'ovar Lavera Kala. V'nigmar Dino, Alavera Kala. He committed a sin, murder, and he was given a Gmar Din for murder, which is to be killed with sayif, with the sword. And then in the meantime, before they carry out the death penalty, Chazar v'over lavera chamura. He lived with an Aramoy Rasa, which is skila. Now, Alavera Kala. Hi Gavra Katelu. Maybe we would see this is like a dead man walking. He has a death penalty against him. And maybe he, whatever he does now, we don't consider it. Kamash Malan did no. If he commits another Aveira, which has a worse punishment, it will have ramifications for him. He'll get killed with the worst punishment.
But Ernie, we learned many times that when somebody is condemned to death, they take him out immediately. So what's the time in between?
Okay, let's say that afternoon, they didn't kill him right away. He had 2 hours, and he committed an Aveira in that 2 hours.
Speedy Gonzalez, okay.
Speedy Gonzalez, exactly. Boy minei avuot, the Rav Yosef Parcham and Rav Nosson. Menoa mil sodom rabbanon. Where did the Chachamim get this? Mishnas chayv v'shtei mitzvos bezdin, nidon b'chamor gets the worst. Okay, it's a pasuk in Yechezkel. V'hoylid ben porit shoyfech dam, v'asas bechad me'ele, v'hu es kolei lo asa ki gam el he'horim ochal. We'll see that means avodah zarah ves eishes re'eu timei. He lived with his neighbor's wife, ani ve'evyon, huna gzelus gozal. He stole chaval yoshiv vela giluli nasainav. He worshipped idols, to'eva asa. The Gemara darshans this pasuk. V'hoylid ben peret shoyfech dam. That means he's a rotzeach, and he's killed b'sayif. As eishes re'eu timei, he committed adultery. Zu eishes ish b'chemek. Vela giluli nasa einav. He turned his eyes to the idols of the avodah zarah b'skila. What does it say after all this pasuk uksiv? Must damav bo yiyeh. And Yechezkel says he's put to death. Damav bo. We already learned that dmei and bam references skila. That's beskila. So this person committed multiple averos, which gave him multiple death penalties, sayif, chenek, and skila. And you see the pasuk says you give him skila. So the Gemara is telling us, when we ask Menon and Mili, where do we derive the source that you treat the person more stringently? We learn it from this pasuk. Okay. Maskil Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Ema Kulu. Maybe this pasuk are all dealing with averos which give you skila, beskila. Now, how could that be? Hoylid ben port shofech dam. That's a ben sorah moira. That's a ben who is, doing all sorts of bad things, and you kill him with skila. Eishes reu time zunara moirasa, beskila. If you live with a nara moirasa, a nara, a girl between 12 and 12 and a half, who has kiddushin only, you get skila. Vela gilulim nasayin of zu avodah zarah de beskila. So perhaps it's not talking about regular murder and regular eishes ish, but it's talking about everything that has skila. So there's no big limud from this pasuk to tell you about skila. So in fact, im kain mai kamash lan Yecheskel. The Gemara then asks, well, then why would Yecheskel write this? We know it from the Torah, these dinim. If you tell me it comes to teach me this din of you have multiple capital execution verdicts, that you get the worst one, fine, then I understand why Yecheskel did it. But if not, well, what's Yecheskel repeating this for? We learn it in the Torah. And for Gemara Dilma, Torah Kamahadir. Yeah. He's not teaching us any Chiddush. He's reviewing many times. We have the Nevi'im review halacha from the Torah. Well, he should have used the same language as Moshe Rabbeinu did. So it must be that they didn't. Must be a new halacha, which we said about the killing the person with the more chomer dika death penalty. Darash Ravacha Brachina Ma'itich Siv El Heharim Lo Achal the Einav Lo Nasas Gilul Beis Yisrael Ve'Seish Yisrael Lo Tim Evelisha Nida Lo Yikrav. We darshan all of this. We're talking about a person who's careful to avoid these averos. He will be called a tzaddik. El Heharim Lo Achal because the Harim were called, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov were called Harim, Harei Kedem. He didn't rely on Schus Avos. He gave stock and he was righteous in his own right. Ein av lo nasa gilui beis Yisrael. Shlohalach b'koim and sekufa. It doesn't mamish mean worshiping of others. It means when you walk with a haughty gait, it's like a haughty person. It's gaiva. And it's like avodah zarah. This eish Yisrael lo timei shelo yorad lunas chavero. Doesn't mean an eish Yisrael. It means he's not a masik gvul. His neighbor has a pizza store. He doesn't open a pizza store down the block. He doesn't do the same malacha as his friend because it's going to damage him financially. Velisha nida lo yikrav. Shelo nene mikupa shel tzedakah. You shouldn't benefit from community chest. And it says, tzadiku chayu yichya. On such a person, he'll be a tzaddik. Kishay Rabbi Gamliel magil mikra zeh. He would get to this pasuk as kolchu kosai shamnar v'yaseh otam chaya yichya. Haya boiche. V'ramanda ovid lekula hu dechaye b'chadim inayu lo. It's because Rabbi Gamliel was learning it. You got to do all of this in order to be called a tzaddik. And just if you are careful with one of these, it's not enough. Amar Rabbi Kiva, no. Elameata. If you're going to learn kol that way, when we're given the list of all the prohibited sexual relations, it says alti tamu b'kol leila. So what are you saying? Achanami, he has to stay away from all of this, b'kulu in, but b'chadim inayu lo? And he's going to get punished if he, even with, he's going to get punished even if he violates one of them. It's not that he has to violate all of them to be punished. Even if he violates one of the prohibited relations, he's going to be punished. Ella, b'achas b'kol leila. Achanami, b'achas b'kol leila. Rabbi Kiva was menachem Rabbi Gamliel to say, if a person was careful with one of these averas, or one of these things that was mentioned by the Gemara, that's enough to make him a tzaddik. Then we said, over avera achas, we said, chamoiso ineshesish. So it's a machlokas that Tanakama learns, you give him the worst punishment. Rabbi Yossi says you do whatever the prohibition was first. Tanya. That the first prohibited thing that comes to him regarding this woman, that's how he's killed. For example, when he married his wife's mother was either a divorcee or an almana. She was not married. So At that point, she's chamoisoi. Later on, she gets married. Vinas is later on Eishes Ish. And then he has relations with her. According to Rabbi Yossi, Nidin, he's Nidin Mishum chamoisoi. You treat him, you kill him with Sreifa, which is the punishment of chamoisoi, because that's the first zika that he had with them. But before you married your wife, she had a mother who was an Eishes Ish. And then you married her daughter. Now she becomes your mother-in-law. But she was an Eishes Ish first. Your relationship to her prior to marrying her daughter was the prohibition of Eishes Ish. So in that case, she was an Eishes Ish. V'nasis chamoisoi. If now he has relations with this woman, Nidin Be'Eishes Ish. This is according to Rabbi Yossi. We don't paskin this way. If chamoisoi v'nasis Eishes Ish, let's say you're correct. First, she was an unmarried woman because she was divorced or widowed, and she was your mother-in-law, and then she married somebody. And we say Nidin b'chamoisoi. We kill him with the punishment of chamoisoi, sreifa. What do you mean? Lidnami ala Isra Eishes Ish. She's also an Eishes Ish. And the Amar Ravavo Moed Rav Yossi be'Isra Moisiv. Now, this brings us to a complicated sugya. There is a concept called Ein Isra Chalal Isra. For example, you have a piece of meat that's a nevela, piece of nevela meat. But on Yom Kippur, you can't eat that meat. Well, there's already an Isser on the meat. Does the Isser of Yom Kippur not eating it chal on that Isser? So it depends. If it's an Isser Moisif, if now more people, it's a broader Isser, then he would hold that Isser would be chal. Normally, Rabbi Yossi holds ein Isser chalal Isser. But if the second Isser is a more broad Isser, Rabbi Yossi will agree that the second Isser will chalal Isser. So, being an Eishes Ish is a broader Isser. Mother-in-law is only unique to me. Eishes Ish, everybody can't live with an Eishes Ish. So it's a broader Isser. So even Rabbi Yossi would hold that you have to punish him with Eishes Ish as well. Now, I was wondering whether one of you guys would jump on this. Amr le Adabrei, Amr le Adabri, that his son Ada said, betray Ktali Ktalale. You can't kill a person twice. Rabbi Yossi holds, yes, technically there is an Isra of Eishes Ish that was chal on Isra Chamoisai. And therefore, let's say it was done b'shoigeg. Let's say you didn't know who these women were, or you thought it was permitted. So you'd have to bring a chatas. Well, you'd have to bring two chatases, because according to Rabbi Yossi, it's an Isra Moisif, and there's Yesh Isra Chalal Isra, which would require you to bring two korbanos. But regarding death penalty, you can only kill somebody once. So you're going to kill him with sreifa. The fact you can't kill him for Eishes Ish as well. You can't think he's already dead. Okay. Mishalaka.
Ernie, I just want to ask you. So when did she become? In other words, when he first got married, the mother-in-law wasn't married.
So then the first zika, the first connection he had with her as mother-in-law.
As mother-in-law, that remains like that.
No, and then let's say she now marries somebody. After you married, so now that she's an Eishes Ish. But the first zika you had was with chamoisai.
But so
But
that
Rabbi Yossi, you would be treated with the punishment for chamoisai. Now, let's say before you married her, she was an Ashes Ish, and she's still an Ashes Ish, and you marry the daughter. First, she was an Ashes Ish, prohibited to you. Then she became your mother-in-law. In that situation, if you lived with her afterwards, you would kill him with chenek, not sreifa, because
I understand.
that's
Yeah.
that's what Rabbi Yossi
In
said.
other words, whatever's the initiation is what.
When he came into the picture,
Right. That's
what was she? The Zika.
Exactly.
Remember, we talk about Zika by Yibum. Here also, he had a certain connection to this woman. What was his connection? So if it's initially Chamoisa and then later on Eshes Ish, okay. Initially, she's an Eshes Ish. Like when you meet your mother-in-law, your future mother-in-law, when you're going out with your Kala, she's an Eshes Ish. She's prohibited to you as Eshes Ish. Then you marry your Kala. Now she's your mother-in-law. But initially, you were prohibited to her as an Eshes Ish. The way Rabbi Yossi learns, if you then have relations with her, you would get the punishment with the first Zika, with that first connection. Exactly. Okay. Mishaloka v'shana. So we have Averis in the Torah that give you malchus. For example, if you eat chaylev is a certain prohibited fat in a kosher animal. The chaylev ala kloyos, the fat over the kidney, the fat, the chaylev, and ala kaved, the fat around the liver. Certain fats are prohibited as chaylev. If you eat a kazais of chaylev, you get kores. Excuse me. If you eat a kazais of chaylev, you also get malchus. If it was done be Eidim and Asra. Same thing if you eat a kazais of dam. You get malchus. There's also kores involved, but if you get malchus, it sort of absolves the kores. Now, let's say somebody, you wear shatnez. You get malchus for that. You eat chazer. You get malchus for that. There's going to be a machlokes whether you get malchus for chaylev and dam because of kimle midrabi minei, that anything where there's a death penalty or even kores attached, does it free you from malchus or not? So the simpler case is like eating chazer. Malchus, there's no kores with that. Or wearing shatnez. Or all the other lavim, there's 365 lavim in the Torah, which you would get malchus for. Now, somebody does it once, and you gave him malchus. And then he did the same aveira again. And you gave him malchus the second time. So he is now sort of addicted to this. Beis Din machnis noso lekipa. Beis Din puts him in an igloo, which has no oxygen. Umachilin oso so'oirin. And they feed him barley, achakresu mispakas, his stomach explodes and he dies by himself. There's no capital punishment here, but this is what you do with a continuous sinner. So the Gemara immediately, mishum shalaka v'shana, basing coins, like we kill it. I understand, because we're hastening his death. On Rav Yirmiyah, Rav Shimon ben Lakish. This is talking about the chaylev and dam, which, if he was given hasra, you get malchus. If there's no hasra, there's only kores. The gavra bar katiluhu, he's really a little bit of a dead man walking, because kores is like misa b'dei shamayim. Ukruvi hu lo mikriv ktele. But he's still walking around alive. Beis Din hasn't taken him. The kivin to kuvim mavatul nafshe mekarvina lekala yului. He has been mafkir himself with averis. So we hasten his death. So he shouldn't be an avarian. Amr Rav Yaakov Rav Yirmiyah bar Tachlifa to asber lecha. I will give you a little bit more detail. B'malkir shel koris achas. He's doing the same aveira, chaylev. But aval shtayim b'sholosh krisus. But if he ate chaylev and then dam, and he ate another one that gives you like a choisoy, having relation with a choisoy, which is also koris, then Yisirhu de kotoim. He likes the Isser. V'lo mavater kulahai. It's not he has he's a taivadik. He's a taivanik. He's not being mafkir and rebelling against Hashem. It's because of his personal taiva. If he's doing chaylev, that is an act of rebellion, and then we would put him in the kippah. But if he did multiple different averis, we would not. So in the Rambam Paskins, it's he does the same aver that gives you kores, and if he did it the third time, you don't give him malchus, you put him into the kippah.
What is the kippah exactly? The bolted
kippah-
chamber? What is it like?
I call it like an igloo.
Solitary confinement. What is it?
Yeah, it's like you put him in a small room. The Gemara is going to explain what it is.
Okay.
You put him in a small room. Do you remember? Have you ever been to Efrat? You see the igloos there. Because a kippah is like a dome, so I think it was probably dome shaped, like these little igloos. Okay. Misha Loka Vishana. So he's repeating these averis. Shana Avagav Delo Shilesh. So all he has to do is he has to do the avera twice, be punished twice, and then the third time you wouldn't give him malchus, you'd put him in the keep. Lema Masnisim, the Lok Rav Shimon Gamliel. We know the famous machlokas between Rebbe and Rav Shimon Gamliel as to what establishes chazaka, 2 times or 3 times. The Rav Shimon Gamliel ha'omar at plazimni lo have chazaka. Rav Shimon Gamliel says a chazaka is not established until you did it 3 times. So our Mishnah, Rav Shimon Gamliel, would have had to say he's violated the avera 3 times, got malchus 3 times, and on the 4th time you'd put him in the keep. And doing it twice is not going to be enough. On Ravina, Afilu Temek Rav Shimon Gamliel. Ravina can explain our Mishnah even to Rav Shimon Gamliel. Ksavra averos machzikos. It's not because he got malchus 3 times. It's because he did the avera multiple times. So Laka Vishanam works out, even to Rav Shimon Gamliel. Because he did it once, he did it second. Now, once he did the 3rd time the Avera, then you put him in the Kippah. Because we're not interested he got Malchus 3 times. We're interested he did the Avera 3 times. It fits Rav Shimon Gamliel, who says you're a Chazakanik if you do three times in a row. However, Meisvei. Over Avera Sheyesh B'Malchus, you ate Chazer, Pam Rishon Ushniya. Malkin also, you give him malchus. Shlishis, you don't give him malchus. Koitz no solakipa. Right, that's like our Mishnah. So Abashol says no, you give him malchus. Ubrevi is koitz no solakipa. And l'chora, this seems to be beferish. My love, the kula alma malkios machzikos. It's not the averos, it's the malchus. And Chachamim and Abasholi are having the same machlokas, but pluk to the Rebbe, Rav Shimon Gamliel, Kamifki, regarding do you establish chazaka only after 2 times or after 3 times? So the verse is low. You don't have to learn that way. Kula me isluhu, Rav Shimon Gamliel. Everybody holds like Rav Shimon Gamliel that you establish chazaka after 3 times. V'hachaba Kamifki, what is the Chachamim and Abba Chalafta arguing in? The Mar Savar, the Chachamim say, already the 3rd time you put him in the kippah, because it's the Averos Machzikos, and he already did it. He already did it 3 times, the Averos. Umar Savar, no, Malkios Machzikos. That's in fact the point that they're arguing in. Is it the Avera that established the Chazaka, or the numbers of Malkios that he gets? He already went through 3. And once he had Malchus 3 times, now he has the Chazaka, so we wait for him to be over the 4th time, and then he puts in the Kippah. However, Vadatanya, Hisrubo, you gave Asra to somebody about Chazir. You say, don't eat this Chazir, you're going to get Malchus. And the guy, Vishosak, he was not Makabel the Hasra, or verbally, or Hisrub over here, Kin Rosho. Maybe he shook his head, but he didn't say precisely, I'm Makabel. So, Pan Rishon Ushniya, if this happens once and twice, Masrin Bo, so you give him Asra, but Beis Din can't punish him because he didn't accept it. B'mefurish. But Shlishis, this guy's a game player, coins no sola kippah. The Tanakh says you put him in the kippah. Abishol Omer, after Shlishis Masrin Bo. You give him the Asra even after the 3rd time. And Bervi is coins no sola kippah. Here there were no Malchus given. Remember, we tried to say
The 3rd time he doesn't get Malchus, he just gets a warning.
If he doesn't makabel, if he doesn't say I'm makabel, the warning doesn't. Beis Din will not act to use Malchus on the guy if he didn't accept the warning. Yes, he wouldn't get the Malchus, and this is the Gemara's proof, because Malchus leka. We tried to say before that the machlokas between the Chacham and Abba Chalafta was whether is it the Aveira that he committed 3 times, or the fact that he got Malchus 3 times. Well, here he didn't get Malchus at all. Because he wasn't, you have to be Makabel the Asra. Here it seems it's only based on the Averos. Right? Because otherwise, b'may kamiflagi. Amar Avina, lekipa tzrich Asra kamiflagi. Do you need to give Asra to put him in the kippah? Chachamim say, since he violated once, twice, and he did the Aveira the 3rd time, and he didn't accept the Hasra, you put him in the kippah. You don't need a special Hasra for that. But Abashol, before he violates it the 3rd time, you have to say, if you do it again, we're going to put you in the kippah. Umay kippah. Walter wanted to know what's a kippah. Small room, no bigger than the height of the person. So, it's claustrophobic. You can't move around. Heicha remiza. Where's the remez in Tanakh? On Reish Lakish, Timotet Rasha Ra. A Rasha who's going to die because of his evilness. It's going to be a difficult misa. Reish Lakish, Ma'itich Siv. Kigam lo yada adam et hitok. In Kohelet, it says a human being doesn't know his time when he's going to leave this world. Kadogim shenechozim b'mitzoda ra, like fish that are trapped in a net. What is that? My mitzoda ra, Amr Reish Lakish, chika. It's like a net that the fish can't get out of. Some kind of net. Rashi says, "Shu ra v'cholosh v'katan v'oichas b'dogim gdoilim pitom ve'ena roa ve'ena dom l'nechas b'shosos al yedei marav." That means if you have the big nets, this is worse. So having a small net, it's the same thing. Having a small place where you stick a person in, like solitary confinement. Okay, Mishnah.
By the way, it's talked about this kippah, the halacha. You read it; it's scary stuff. You know what the halacha says? The vaulted ceiling chamber, my kippah. The vaulted chamber is as narrow and only wide as the height of one incarcerated, so he is unable to lie down. He is fed sparing bread and scant water until his intestines contract due to the starvation diet. And then the court feeds him barley bread that expands his innards until his belly ruptures. This punishment is for repeat offenders or murderers who cannot be executed by the court in accordance with the opinion of the Rav Sheshet. It's just, my gosh, boy, they play games.
Right? Here we're gonna see what Walter said. Hahoyreg nefesh shelo be'edim. Just because the murderer doesn't have edim, we always talk about, Bezdin doesn't commit, executions once in 70 years because all of the difficulties in adjudicating a case like that. Doesn't make a difference. Machnis no solo kippah. Let's say we know that this guy murdered somebody. We just didn't have edim. Umachil no solechem tsar umayim lachotz. And then that's when we also give him the bread and the water until his stomach bursts. Well, if there's no edim and no yadina, how do we know that he's a murderer? That we put him in the kippah. Amar Rav, be'edus miyuchedes. Normally, edim have to be together on the same corner, or they have to see each other, because otherwise you can't make them zomimim, right? For somebody to say, they can't be correct because they were with me in Disneyland Monday at 1:00. Well, so the two edim have to be together. So if the two edim were far apart from each other, so Bezdin cannot use their testimony to kill the guy. But we know for sure that they're talking the truth. They both saw the guy killed. So we know what the facts of the case are. We just can't use it in Bezdin. That's Rav. Shmuel Amar, that Shelo Basra, they were together, and they saw the murder, but they didn't give the guy Asra. So Bezdin can't kill him. But we saw that he murdered somebody, so you put him in the kippah. V'Rav Chizdo Omar Avimi kigon istishkaches b'bdikos v'iskaches b'chakiros. Right? We do b'dikas and chakiros. We ask them, where were you? What time of day was it? Right? And all of the other questions. And there's some type of conflict between their testimony. So we can't accept it, but we know for sure that the facts of what they testify about is correct. We just can't put the guy to death, but it doesn't say that he was not the murderer. Where the murder took place was under a fig tree. Rav Yochanan asked the Eidim how thick the ukitzes were in his figs. And even that small detail could get a murderer off. But it's clear to Bezdin that the act of the murder had taken place. So then you put him in the kippah. What is this machilno solechem tzar lochatz? What is this? We now feed him, bread and water. So maishna hacha, diktani noisim olechem tzar mayim lochatz. Here it says this, but in the previous Mishnah, maishna hacha shnemar machilno so soirim at shekreso mispakas. What do you mean? We give him barley bread until his. What's going on? What's the punishments? Amrav Sheshes. It's one thing. We give him small amount of bread and very small amount of water. His stomach gets really small over time. Then we give him barley with it, which expands until his stomach explodes. Mishnah.
It's crazy. Where's the hochacha that you're allowed to do this? The Torah tells you got to warn somebody, you got to do this. Where they get this hacha? Where you can't just. What is this?
So we the previous we asked.
You have to have a.
Mishum delaka b'shana based in koifno solakipa with the same. That's your kasha.
No, but
says Malchus.
I'm just saying.
It doesn't say to kill him. So we went to it's misvara. Misvara. They said we're going to get rid of him because we see that he has a taste for sinning, and we can get rid of him.
But the Torah doesn't allow that. The Torah says you got to give atro, They got to be at the same time. It's very nice. The Beis Din's making that laws.
But Walter, the answer to your question is, Beis Din is not killing him biyadayim. It's a passive death. That's the kippah. They're putting him in a room.
It's a grama balma. Yeah, you're right.
Grama. So and they bouldn't be able to do it biyadayim.
I mean, but you know the end result is they're killing him. You know the end result is you're killing him. A grama.
They're not doing it biyadayim. That they're allowed to do. Like, why don't you ask? How do they tell us not to blow shofar on the first day of Rosh Hashanah when it falls on Shabbos? It's mitzvah d'oraisa. Shave al taisa. They can do it by saying, "Don't do the mitzvah."
But
that's what they're doing here too.
That was because of carrying and all this.
Right. Oh, but you can ask the same thing. It's a mitzvah d'oraisa.
You can't. Death penalty is a death penalty, Ernie. You're taking a nefesh. It's not the same thing
as. But they're not taking it. That they wouldn't be able to do it biyadayim.
Okay. I guess doctors have a different idea, but that's my idea.
It's a very severe, harsh thing.
But the end result is always death.
It's
the
death
death penalty.
It's a death
There's
penalty.
No alternative.
You didn't warn the guy. You didn't have Asra. You didn't have Aegis. You didn't have anything, and you're knocking him out. I mean, and because you did it, but you put him there. You locked him up. That's a poil. I just there has to be.
By the way, we did the same thing with the Shor HaNiskal. You put him in the keep and he died. It's the same thing.
Shor HaNiskal, hello. It's a little different.
But you see, it was with the Chen Balad. And some say you're not allowed to put him in the keeper because you couldn't do it to the owner.
Yeah. The Peter people will be very upset with you. Okay, let's carry on.
Let me read a little bit like what he says. Harishonim osku harbe bebiru makoro shel din akipa. The Rishonim were bothered like Walter and Harold are bothered. Hayim yesh li'ro so kidin miyuchad shehu alach leMoshe Messinai. Is this something that came directly from Moshe, passed down generations? Or she'ikori dinim elahem edivrei sofrim. Or maybe the Chachomim did it. Umataratan lahagen ala chevra mipnei rishoim she'ein efsharut le'onsham midin Torah. It's a societal rule. They want to protect society from evil people. They knew they couldn't kill the person midin Torah. V'davar zaboleit be'ikar b'din harotzeach sheyesh barigosu mishum haganol haklal. And you notice the case of the Mishnah, harig nefesh shelo be'edim. We want to get rid of murderers. We don't want murderers running around in society. So it's a law that's established by the Chachamim to regulate society.
I think that they should build, instead of hotels in Gaza, they should build 1 million kippot. A kippah.
By the way, there's the source, uviarta hara mikirbecha. So that's an asmachta. I know they're saying these are how the Rishonim are dealing with it. It's a very important question. Right? Is it just a svara or is it a smachta? It's also it's not.
You can't just. I don't believe the Chachamim can kill people from a svara. Has to be an asmachta to something. Okay?
Either it's halach l'moshe misinai, or it's the pasuk uviarta rabbi kirbecha.
That could be
right. Mishnah hagoyne v'sa kasva. The Gemara will tell us what a kasva is. It's like a kli. V'makalel b'koising. You curse with some kind of magic. We'll see what that is. V'aboil aromis. You have relations with a woman. Like Zimri had relations with Cosby Bas Tzur in front of Moshe Rabbeinu. So what did Pinchas do? Haboil aromis kanoim poigimbo. That's from this Mishnah. Kanoim poigimbo. You're allowed to kill him. It doesn't say in the Torah that such a person is chayv misa b'dei adam, but somebody who is a kanoi He's jealous for Hashem, and it hurts him. You can kill him, and that's what Pinchas did. It's extrajudicial killing. That's what it is. Kohen sheshimesh betuma. Kohen was tamei, did the avoda. Einechav kohen mevino solo Beis Din. They didn't bring him to Beis Din. Elapirche kohuna motzino so chutz lazor umafsiin es mocho b'gzirin. The young Kohanim would take him out of the Azor and smash his head into pieces until his brain came out. So I see everybody's quiet. It continues. That means this extrajudicial warnings that you could be killed is present. Zar, sheshimesh b'migdash, a non-Kohen who goes into the base of Migdash and does that. Rabbi Kiva Omer, bechenek, Beis Din kills him. But the Chachamim Oimrim know, bidei shamayim, it's misa bidei shamayim. My kasva. Now, what is this kasva? Omer kli shores. It's one of the kli shores in the base of Migdash. Bechenu Omer ves ksavos hanosech. It's related to kli shores. Vecha remiza. This is if you steal a kli shores that kanoim poigimbo. Somebody sees you stealing and it bothers him, he can kill you. It's not death penalty in Beis Din. Shenemer v'lo yavoli ros kivalas hakodesh v'mesu. Means somebody who takes for himself something that belongs to kodesh, he can be killed. Then v'makalel b'koisim. Tani Rav Yosef. Yake koisim is koismoi. He curses Hashem with the name of an avodah zarah, but not the name of Hashem. Right? We already learned that's death penalty. But here he's cursing Hashem with the name of an avodah zarah. That he thinks that some kind of wizard can do some damage to Hashem. Rabbana v'tem Rav Mary, Amri Yakeu kosim lo ulakonu lamakno. That this phraseology has to be like that. That this wizard will strike him. Ulakonu lamakno. And everything, and to the Borei Olam who gives us everything. So you can kill him. Someone who goes around saying these comments can be killed. So the Rambam says, Kohen she'over betum mechayev malchus. But the Kohanim would not bring him to Beis Din, they would kill him. And you can't protest against what they did. Same thing with Aboila Ramis. If it bothers somebody, he does it publicly in front of 10 people, you're allowed to kill him. Okay. Very interesting Gemara.
Scary.
We'll deal with a little bit about a boil. We'll also have a little bit from Malachim Beis with the Melech Yehoyakim, something that we just learned. Very important Xeris, very important blood tomorrow.
Okay.
Excellent,
What time?
everybody. 7. We're here.
7.
All week it's going to be 7 o'clock. Monday 7, Tuesday 7 because of Tzurba, Wednesday 7 because of the shir at your home. On Thursday we'll probably learn like 5 or 5:30 or 6. We'll see what time because
What time?
Megillah I think is going to be 7:30. Huh?
No, you have to see what time Megillah is and what
I think
time
it's gonna
like that.
Probably going to be 7:30. So we'll see. We'll see what time they announce the thing.
For the Tzom, they couldn't wait until after the
And
Tzom.
also Friday it'll be like at 5 o'clock because we have plenty of time now.
Okay.
Right.
Uh,